A lot has changed since I moved into the recruitment industry. I actually started in recruitment itself in 1990, so that's going back a long time ago, and I moved in-house in 1998, so again, a long time ago. I think what's happened is that in-house recruitment is becoming much more commonplace. Number one. I think number two is the fact that we are seeing a much more professional side to recruitment industry than we did when I first started in it. I think what we're also seeing is the ability of recruitment to play a much more strategic and vital part with the organization. An example is a portion of the business that I have been asked to take on, and that's strategic workforce planning. So it becomes more than just bums on seats. It becomes just more than employing people for today. It's actually looking at how do we reduce the risk to our organization over the long term by securing and ensuring we have secured critical and core skill sets, in particular ones that have a high learning curve. In the year ahead, there are a number of challenges I foresee for recruiters and recruitment industry. I think the first one is the fact that there will start being a war for talent across many sectors. This is going to be a new thing, in particular for companies who'd always felt that this was a buyer's market. So I think that's the first aspect we're going to see a change. I think the second change we're going to see as part of that is we will probably see the emergence of counter-offers as the market hots up, and candidates having a greater choice. Companies, I think, will have to do a better job at selling the opportunity to the candidate and ensuring that this is a win-win for both the organization and the employee. I think as part of that, one of the things that companies need to think more heavily about is looking at individuals to recruit who see the new job as a step upward, see the organization as a development for them, rather than always taking somebody who's been there, seen it and done it. In terms of using agencies and recruitment suppliers, I've never had an issue with that. I view them very much as a strategic part of our recruitment process. There are times we certainly go to use our recruitment resourcing partners, but there are also times when we don't. I think it depends on what the recruitment need is. For me, there is no single solution. We don't say we always do it internally, and we don't say we will always use external providers. I think it depends on what we're recruiting. If the role we're recruiting for is part of our core needs, within an area that we have developed skill set, then what I would say is that the organization will do its own recruitment. If we're recruiting a skill set that is outside of our core needs, or it's in a developing market that we don't have the skill sets for, then we would probably use a third-party supplier. The last one, of course, is bandwidth. How much time do we have, and how busy are the recruitment team currently on their recruitment activities? If they're very busy, then of course we'll use a third party to ensure that at the end of the day, we deliver the recruitment the business wants. I think going forward, recruitment agencies have a number of challenges facing them. In particular, I think it's the proliferation of technology. Again, I've used the words LinkedIn a number of times when I speak to my team and other people, but I think LinkedIn has, 280 million odd people subscribed to it. With that sort of number, the ability to have a database of candidates becomes easier for companies to do in-house themselves. So the question is, what is an agency or a service provider offering rather than just a CV? How do we ensure that the service provision by a search firm actually acts as a win-win for the organization, i.e. they not only provide a bum on the seat, not only do they provide somebody who turns up on day one, but actually somebody who adds value to the organization for the long term. So maybe there might be a need to reevaluate the whole billing structure, that it isn't based on a success, but it's based on success over a longer term. The steel industry has a number of challenges which could be construed as specific to our industry. We are a very heavy engineering-based business. The first thing is in developed markets, and we have nearly 80+% of our operations in developed markets. Engineering is not a field that young graduates are going into. There is a drop in the number of graduates coming from engineering schools. The ones who are coming out of engineering don't necessarily want to go into steel. They want to go into some of the greener ones, the biotechs, the biofuels area, sustainable energy, rather than moving into the pure sort of they might view it as polluting an old industry that steel is. So we certainly see a challenge in terms of recruiting young engineers into our organisation. I think the other factor that we will face a challenge with is engineering, in particular in the steel industry, traditionally has involved people working in one of our mills as an engineer for 10, 12 years before they become an expert. We're not sure that Gen Y and the millennials are really prepared or want to spend that level of time. So the other challenge we have is how do we change the development of our engineering capability to fast stream and fast track these people in? Because as I said, first challenge is difficulty getting them in. The second challenge is keeping them motivated for the length of time it takes to make them experts. I don't think LinkedIn will own the recruitment industry. I think LinkedIn is the premier platform for recruitment activity. It seems to have been specifically designed for that action more than any other social networking capability out there. However, I think recruitment is more than just a database. Recruitment is about the whole element of course, identification, selection. But I think I'd rather use the word resourcing rather than recruitment and make it a wider aspect. So it's about, yes, identifying the right person, yes, about attracting that person, and yes, about making an offer and bringing them to the organisation. But then you have the whole aspect of how do you ensure that individual becomes productive. So onboarding, I think, is a big issue that will become more and more prevalent. Training and development. So I think resourcing rather than the word recruitment is going to be far bigger than LinkedIn. LinkedIn will probably be one of, if not the premier source of candidates in terms of a database, but resourcing is much bigger than just names. I think that there are a number of recruitment forums out there who are doing a very good job, but I think there is probably a need to also bring companies, corporates such as ourselves, and also recruitment providers into the same room. In my past, when I was in the search and agency business, the forums I attended seemed to be just for recruiters, and now that I'm on the corporate side, the forums I attend seem to be just for corporate people. And one of the big comments out there is that there is a lack of harmony or disjointedness in terms of what corporate companies want and what is always necessarily being provided by the recruitment industry. So I think forums that can bring them together and they can have an open dialogue is probably quite valuable.